And go beyond the likes is where we really take you beyond those likes and follows to get to that place of strategy, money in the bank, right? What is the actual tactic, the thing that you're doing to get to that business goal, right? How are you thinking about it? Are you doing it the right way? Is your agency doing it the right way? And we've been talking for the last few weeks about the sales funnel, right? We started off talking a lot about it, and then we started breaking it down into chunks. Today, we're talking a little bit about how closing the deal, right? Strategies for success in the decision stage of the funnel. So let's go to the funnel. Let's show the funnel. The decision stage is that point of, where they're saying, are we ready to make a decision? So you've come through, the top of the funnel, you've made it through the competition, they're in your funnel now. You're at the stage, you get to that brand awareness, they know who your brand is, they understand that, hey, I might be interested in the solution that they have. I want to talk to them. This stuff they're saying feeds me, it feeds my pain points. And now they're getting to the next step of the funnel, which is the decision phase, right? So that decision phase is, again, sometimes make or break for you here, right? This is where it really becomes so important that the content is really 100% about them, especially in that decision phase. What are the things you need in order to make that happen? And we've been really positioning this as with the sales funnel, right? The sales funnel has an action, which is the action that you and your business is taking. Then there's the customer reaction. And then, of course, we want to talk about the KPI. So you are driving your customers to make a decision, right? And now that they know you, now that they're interested, you want them to make a decision by, either giving them a special offer through email. Maybe you're sending them something through social media, through your website. You're getting them to get to a place of like, hey, I want to either buy this from you, or I want to download this and share with someone. You want them to take whatever that conversion is, right? Conversions can be different. I think there are definitely layers to conversion. Whatever that action you want them to take, what that decision you want them to make, you're presenting them with that offer, you're presenting them with that, that, whether it's a checklist, whatever the thing is, or maybe you're at a point where you're saying, hey, you know what? This is now time. We're in our sales cycle. This is now time for you to buy. You're presenting them with something that makes sense for them. So it has to be this thing that is, again, 100% about them. As they're making this decision, they're not thinking about your business goals. Okay. They're not like, oh, you know what? Michelle's trying to draw in another $1 million today as I'm making my decision. This decision comes down to their budget. It comes down to, who are the decision makers? Are they the decision makers? Do they need to go talk to somebody else? Do you need to give them something that says, hey, take this over to the rest of the team? Because sometimes we're not even thinking about that, right? We're just thinking about the person that's there, but they might need to convince someone else. So you really have to think through, what is the action? What is the decision you want them to make? And is this decision an easy decision for them to make, or is it a hard decision for them to make? If it's a hard decision, you have to give them a little bit more time and a little bit more ammunition, more information that moves them down and makes them feel really, really comfortable. So as you're thinking through your decision portion of the sales funnel, you really want to, number one, make it 100% about the customer and think through, is this a hard decision? Is this a $50 decision, or is this a $50,000 decision, right? Because they're going to look very different, very, very different. And that ammunition, that offer, that thing you present to them. I remember we were working with a client and we were talking about how they got to, when their teachers got to a point of, liking a book, for instance, and they wanted to, take that back to the other teachers. What do they need, right? They need ammunition to say, this is the right thing for you guys, and here's how you do that. And so we really had to start thinking about, how do you provide them that ammunition? How do you provide them the right information? So what's the decision that the customer reaction is? Is it a sign up? Is it a, click here? Is it a book a conversation? Is it, what is the thing that moves them? If it's a bigger decision, right, or it's a bigger financial decision, maybe you're at a point where you're saying, hey, book a consultation with me so I can walk you through this. Maybe you're saying, hey, sign up to, get more information about this. We have a white paper that you can now take and present to your team. What is the decision that the customer, what is the reaction that you want them to take? And are they going to take that reaction? So that content, that information that you provide them gets them to a point where they're saying, yeah, you know what, this may be right for me. I'm ready to make a decision with this brand. Let me take this action and then move forward. So then after that, what you want to highlight for them, what you want to highlight is, you want to go back and track to see, okay, does this work? What's my metric? So we're always thinking your reaction, your action, the customer reaction, and then the decision, having a KPI to go with it. So you're going back to look to see, what is the KPI, right? Is it number of, did you send it to them in email? Did they open the email? Did they go to your website to download it? Did they add to cart? Did they spend more time on site? You now have to look at the metric that says, this worked for them. They really liked this, or maybe they didn't like this. Maybe I need to make some changes here because no one downloaded it. It's a $50,000 product, but I only gave them like 2 lines and they didn't move forward. So making a decision to say, maybe I need to create a little bit more interactivity. Maybe I need to put a video on this page that explains some more. Maybe I need to do some things that allow them to stay on site a little bit longer so that they can actually take the step I want them to take. It's an opportunity for you to go back and optimize by using these KPIs throughout that process. So the decision phase, make the content about them, and then really manage these KPIs to see where you need to go in and optimize in that portion of the sales funnel.
So definitely at this point, I would say you're very much, you may find yourself very much within email, right? As the tool that you're using to clarify some of these actions, or make sure, as you said, are they requesting a proposal to be written? Are they requesting for a follow-up meeting with other members of their team? So you want to make sure that you are really communicating well. You've segmented. You're no longer sending them, just the run-of-the-mill content that everybody's getting, but that acknowledges where they are in their decision process, and that you're addressing any remaining objections that they may have, or to clarify anything about your process. And that email is a really great way to do that at this stage.
From a marketing perspective, when I think of how, from a sales place, I'm coordinating with marketing to get across a message, I'm looking for that additional in the information. What's that additional visual that needs to get somebody to pay attention to me? So I think remarketing, where somebody's expressed some interest, so we're coming back and saying, I know you were looking at this. I know you were looking at this. Are you sure you don't want this again? Or let me remind you and remove that distraction and put this back at the top, at the center of your attention span. And how do we keep us in the forefront? If it's a part of the email strategy, Michael, that you're speaking of from a marketing perspective, where does that fit in? That can be automated, more personalized, but a bit more automated. And going, like you said, Tamara, how do I keep them engaged? And I'm looking from a sales perspective, where did they lean in a little bit more? They've been to our site a little before, but they've now gone to a different place. And from a marketing place, do I need to pay more attention from a sales side because they've been there a little longer, or they've gone to the FAQ? So what do I need to do from a sales perspective to make sure that I'm feeding the right information to my marketing team to get that engagement to last a little longer?
I think at this point in the funnel, there's a lot of attention to detail, because I feel like at this point in time, they're so close to taking that step that you want to make sure that you pay attention to these little details that you guys were highlighting, right? Making sure that they have all the information that they need, especially in the B2B space, where you probably have a very expensive product. Tamara mentioned you have a $50,000, your proposal is $50,000. It matters what you give them in order for them to make this decision. So at this point in time, the fine details now, the fine print becomes important. You know, you've given them the overall picture all along, but at this point in time, they're going to get very specific and they're going to want to know very specific things. So you need to be in tune with what they are saying, whether directly or indirectly by their actions that they may take, as we talked about. Did they open the email? Did they click download? You know, pay attention to those things, because these are the parts of where they will say whether they like what they hear or not, or whether they're going to take the step. But at this point, it's for me, I interpret this stage as the detail stage, because I feel like if you miss a detail, it could lead to not converting.
No, I agree with you 100% there. And then the other thing too, we say this all the time, right? They may not be in this phase with just you, right? Assume that some competition is in there because they don't need to choose just yet, Yeah. All right. So I think now we're moving on to the sales portion of the decision phase.
All right, let's talk about the sales side of this and your actions. We're getting into the nitty-gritty of this, where there needs to be a bit more of a bold stance that you take from a sales perspective as you're communicating with your clients. And I'm just going to speak to this on two different levels when we're talking B2B, where we're talking large dollar amounts, a lot of people that are at the table in some instances where they're trying to narrow down their choices and you want to be one of the finalists. So this is a place where you're having to get to beyond just the dating phase, that speed dating part, where you're intensely spending more time with your prospective clients. You're solidifying that trust factor in the relationship, where if you're doing demos, they're deep dive demos where you're providing answers to specific questions that they've had and given the evidence that you're able to produce what they need in order for them to invest their money and more time with you. The consults are a lot different, where it's more than just surface questions. You're peeling back a lot of layers and you're being pointed in the answers that you're providing to really show that you can resolve whatever their concern may be. In this instance, you're also providing incentives for them to spend more time with you if that's part of what you have going for your business. I mentioned retargeting, because we have a lot of moving targets. The actions that you're doing from a sales perspective are not only to obtain and gain more time and interest from those that you're trying to get from a client basis, but also what's the information that you're providing to your marketing team in order to move that relationship a bit forward with those people that you're trying to secure. So again, as I mentioned earlier, retargeting ads. What can I provide from a sales perspective that's going to make someone click again? And that's the reminder of you were here in a retargeting place and delivering to them that item that they've looked at. So if it's a shoe, or if they were at some place in reading part of your blog, reminding them of you expressed interest here. Here's a bit more information that you would likely find interesting. The most important piece in this to me, and this is going to hit us in the next phase as well, is you must ask for the business. Put it out there. Click here. When will you be making the decision? Is there anything that I presented to you that would make you not want to purchase? What more information that I may provide to get you to say yes? Find your words in the way that you speak, how you deliver information, so that you will ask and ask and ask for the business. Genuinely ask them for the business. Now, what does that look like from a decision phase for your clients? A couple of things, and Nia, you can move on. One, they are clicking when you say click here to buy. That's a component of it. When you are one-on-one with them on screen or in person, active engagement is key signals for you to understand. When you're delivering information and they come back to you and either non-verbally look and lean in and say, hold on a second, repeat that, or they ask a follow-up question based upon something that you've said. Those are important factors that are key in this place. Expressing interest in purchasing by clicking and placing that into the cart. When they're visiting your FAQ page, that's a big deal. That means that they've moved to a place that they're at the final stages and trying to just dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure that they have the information that they need. The additional thing that I want you to understand in this phase too, this is for B2B, where if there's an RFP process and there are numerous people that are at the table and they've expressed to you that there's a finals, that you make the finals, that you make the finals and that you're very close to getting them to say yes to you. So you want to be in the final stages, not just the semifinals. You want to get to whether you're one of two, or if you're successful in just really knocking everybody else out, and that final stage is a formality. Now, what does this look like as far as the KPIs are concerned? This is not just the number of demos, but what's the repeat factor that you've moved to the next meeting with them? What does your abandoned cart rate look like? How many people not only put something in cart, but either let it sit there or move to purchase really quickly? The ad clicks for the remarketing, that's really important. That are they delivering, and did they just get off track and now they're back on track and moving forward? And then we're moving away from marketing qualified leads, the MQLs, to sales qualified leads, the SQL. So now they're farther down the funnel. We've qualified that lead. We understand that this is a potential client that is more aligned with where we want our business to be, and they're interested. So this is a true sales lead now. So not just a marketing lead, but a sales lead. And how many of these have converted from MQLs to the SQLs? That's really key in trying to understand your metrics and if you're on the right track or if you need to just shift a little bit to get to a different space.
A lot of good stuff in there. I'll start with asking for the business, right? So that's a very clear call to action. However it looks in your world, in your B2B world or B2C world, you have to make sure that you're issuing that clear call to action. I think a lot of times businesses may get caught up in just delivering more content. If I deliver more, they will eventually decide, and they're not actually delivering a clear ask to say, listen, come on board, sign up with us here. And again, everything that you've said, Michelle, it highlights the need to understand, again, your customer's journey and what content falls into the decision stage, what actions fall into the decision stage, so that you're set up properly, so that you understand that, yes, when they take this action, then sales gets involved, right? Then all the things happen. Operationally, you also have the ability to, and this is where CRM comes into play, really helpful, to see all the activity they've done up to that point, right? So that you can leverage that and say, well, okay, this is the content I'm going to give them based on where that individual prospect has gone on my website, the individual actions they've taken, if they've downloaded a white paper, if they've downloaded a sample, so that I can say, okay, I know they are a marketing qualified lead for these reasons, and I know they are sales qualified leads for these reasons. So make sure that you are really understanding your content and your actions as per that stage of the customer journey if they're in that decision stage.
Michelle, this is the ABC, always be closing. Asking, as Michael said, asking for the sale is critical, because you want to be able to make that shift, right? You want to be able to make that shift from just advertising yourself to, hey, please come work with me, or, actually, here's my product. It's a different language. And this is where, coming back to what I said, that detail, because it could just be a tiny little shift in what you say in your communications at this point. I would imagine from operations standpoint, this could even be a handoff to somebody else. Maybe if you're managing a team, I would say hand over to a more experienced team member, because maybe you're at that point. There actually something in Michelle, you could correct me, there's somebody called a closer in the process, right? This is the point where you might want to bring that special person who has that magic touch and say, listen, we're just at this point, help us get over the edge. So it's about tweaking the operations, as Michael said, and it's about tweaking the acts to now say, you've heard all about me, I'd like you to buy my product, and pay attention to that detail. So it's to me, I see it as a very tiny little shift, but it's a powerful shift.
Powerful. Something you said, Andrea, just clicks in my head too, that I say to my clients often as we get to this, because this is the part that everybody, their stomach like it's in knots, because they have to ask for a sale. Practice it. especially if you're doing it on the verbal place, but figure out how to say it and then shut up, be quiet. It's important for you to put it out there and let it marinate and get that answer. You should have a lot of nonverbals at that point, and a lot of verbals to understand that it is the moment to ask the question. Ask it, leave it there, and do not go back to an earlier stage where you put something else on the table to not enhance the decision, but to complicate the sale unnecessarily. Get them to the right place, ask for the sale, ask that question, and then let it rest. And that's key, especially in the verbal place, especially when you're in a B2B environment. Let them make the decision, because by that point, you've put it all on the table.
So we do have one more section that we want to cover before the end of the show, which is the finance section of this. So Andrea, take it away.
So at this point, as you can see, we went straight to the metrics part, right? Because when I think about this decision part of the funnel, what came to mind for me, how much is this thing going to cost to get them to come over? And one of the key things, the one that jutted out to me the most, is there a need for a negotiated reduced price? Because we just spoke about all the little nuances that we're doing, right? And we're asking for the sale. And what came to my mind is that image of the business owner who has given his proposal. Maybe he's presenting in a boardroom and everything is great, you know. And in that moment, they say, well, we'd like you to take 10% off or 15% off. And you'll get the sale, you'll get the business if you give us a lower price. And the business owner says, well, of course, yes, we'll do that, right? We'll do that because you're looking at the bigger picture of getting the sale. But what I would be concerned about from a finance perspective is, what if that 10% was my margin? Or what if my margin was 15 and I came down by 10? I've gone into my margins now. I've gotten the business, yes, but I've impacted my profitability. So at this point in the decision process, I would want to be careful about what is it I'm offering to make the conversion in terms of how does it impact my finances. Is it a positive thing? Is it a negative thing, right? If it is they're looking for price, you know, if it is price is what is the thing that is preventing them from making a decision, we may be very tempted to want to come down on the price. Later down the road, when the money runs out, because we have not gotten enough funds at the start, we could find ourselves in a bit of a pickle. So for me, decision making, the one true thing that stuck out for me was just making sure that these are things that you're offering to bring in that, to turn that decision. What is the impact? Is it a lower price? Are you offering more for the same price? Does it mean, so instead of offering 10 things, you're offering 12 things? What does the provision of these extra 2 things do? So you're still going to get the same amount of money, but you now have to, you promised 2 other deliverables, or you promised to extend the contract by 2 extra months for the same price, right? What does this do to your profitability and to your margins? Because at this point in time, it's so critical. I know we so want to get the sale and we want to get that yes, but you have to be careful that that yes now doesn't cost you to say no to something else later on, because you can't afford to do something else later on for the business because you jeopardized your cash flow, you jeopardized your profitability. So in a very short time, but that for me is my little takeaway when I think about this part of the process. Just be so very careful that what you're offering, those extras that you're trying to make them convert, does not eat into your profitability and then by extension negatively impact your cash flow.
Oh, I love this comment. I love this comment. I'm going to put my pricing hat on in this, in that in your business, you should be prepared to negotiate, especially in a B2B space. So as you're strategizing with your finance person from a sales perspective, there are multiple points of entry to that yes. And that margin that Andrea is speaking of should be spoken about long before this, and you should be prepared to pull specific triggers pending the road that client goes to. If that is something that has come to the table, you, from a sales perspective, should be prepared to remove something from that deal as well. And because at this point, if we're pulling it down by 10 or 15%, and that's what's making the deal, then you should have been prepared for that to happen before this and understood what the margins were at that point and been able to accommodate what that meant. You should also be prepared to negotiate. And that means if that price point is the deal killer or the deal maker, then what are they willing to give up in order to get that price? And what are you willing to remove from services in order to make that happen? It's a conversation that you have to practice. It's a conversation that you need to have internally in order to address where you're going with this. And I'm not saying don't give it, but I'm saying understand, as Andrea is saying, what that does to your margin, but you should have been prepared for that, to negotiate this from the very beginning and be prepared to verbally say, go back and forth to get to that place. Because if you make it about price, your entire relationship will always be about price with this person. So be prepared to understand the shift in relationship once you acquiesce to this without some give and take here. So this comes from the sales girl. Be prepared to understand that if this is the place that you have to walk away from business, walk away if it's not right for your business. All business is not right for your business.
I know we are in final thoughts. Juma, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, 100% correct. Going from Andrea's point to Michelle's point, I think you want to make sure operationally that at that decision stage, and Michelle, this is something you've said on the show before, that you're giving them some options upfront. As you said, here are some different versions of how this service can be delivered, how this product can be delivered, right? You can get it this way or this way or this way. So you give them 3 options and kind of let them know these are the parameters for negotiation, right? So you can start at one end and then end at the other end, and they can take anything in between there, and you know that your margins are safe.
100%. All right, guys, I'm going to run around the team. Everyone has 30 seconds for their final thoughts. Go for it.
I got little to say. Today was a fantastic show. Happy birthday. Welcome to the 50 Club. Look, ask for the sale. That's the important part. Ask for the sale. Do right by your business. And happy Monday.
Yeah, the decision part is that critical part. Pay attention to the details. Pay attention to the shift that you need to make with what you're saying to the customer, either directly or indirectly, what they are saying back to you directly, indirectly. And then when you pay attention to those details, don't forget the money detail as well, because at the end of the day, yes, you want the sale, but be careful that you're not jeopardizing your finances by pushing for a sale that may not be right for your business, because as Michelle said, they made it about price and you're ending up in a sticky situation. So I think at this point, pay attention to the details. The devil is in the details, I think the saying is.
And my final thoughts, definitely from an operational standpoint, make sure that once you've collected that email, you're able to track all their movements up to that decision stage. That informs you on what steps you might need to take next and increases your chances of conversion.
Oh, the decision stage. I will say it is not about you. This whole process is about you with your business goals, but this decision stage is so much about them, and that the stuff that you have to feed that potential customer has to be like, how do they see themselves in this? How do they see their business in it? It's really, really focused on them. So you must really adapt that information to make sure they can make a decision. They can take it to the right team to make a decision. They can influence someone. So you really have to think, what is that piece of content, whatever it is, offer the thing that you're giving them at that decision-making point of the sales funnel. Make it 100% about them. It's not about you.